Hello, this is Justin for CG Tuts Plus, and today we're gonna get on where we last stopped, and that is we're gonna texture and render our iPod. Right here I have the finished product, and now we're gonna just work off some textures, and then we're gonna render it. So let's start by deleting actually let's hide the reference, not delete them, because we don't need them anymore. And first let's take a look at this and see how we're gonna texture it. Well, first of all, the body material is gonna have some type of shiny plastic material on it. These parts are also gonna have some type of plastic. Of course, they're gonna be it's gonna be like a light gray, and this charger thing at the bottom is gonna probably have some type of brass material. Of course, you can texture this really fast by using the Modo presets that come with the software package. You have environments, materials, and we're gonna use a few of those, but we're just gonna use them as base, and then we're gonna change them to our needs. Okay, so the screen. Well, the screen is basically a flat plane to which we're gonna apply probably an image that would usually show on a screen of an iPod. Now the menu. Well, the menu wheel is gonna be slightly different, because this menu wheel is gonna have some buttons on it, and of course we're gonna need to make a simple UV for it. Okay, let's start by first of all, let's group these into another folder. So go to new item, group locator, okay, and rename this base model. Now let's drag all of these to the base model. Now what we're gonna do, first of all, as you can see right here, the mesh is not that smooth, so we're just gonna freeze the model to get it to a higher resolution. We're just gonna change the subdivision level to 1, and we're gonna go up to geometry, freeze, and we're gonna freeze the model. Then we're gonna change our subdivision level back to 2, and then we're gonna smooth the model. This way we're gonna get a fairly smooth model. For the text, we don't need to do that. For the menu, we don't need to do that. For the screen, we don't need to do that. And for the bottom and top, we don't need to do that, because they're going to be less visible than the actual body. One thing I forgot to say is that we're not going to render a single version. I mean, we're going to first texture this one, and then we're going to duplicate it and pose it, so that way the newly created model, or cloned model, we're not going to have to retexture it all over again. Okay, let's go to the shader tree, and you're gonna see that you have some outputs and the base shader and the base material. Well, first of all, let's start by creating materials for each individual piece. So the body, we just we can select it and then create a material, but since we're gonna apply this to the whole mesh, we're just gonna click the mesh and then press M on your keyboard, and then you can rename the material to whatever you like, and when you press OK, it's gonna create and go to the shader tree. So let's rename this body material, and we want smoothing on it, we want diffuse 100%, and that's it. Just leave everything at default. The text, well, the text is gonna be text material, and we don't want smoothing, we want diffuse 100%, and there we go. Now the menu, well, the menu, we want smoothing, and it's gonna be menu material, and OK. The same for the screen, screen material, and the top bottom. Well, the top bottom, it's gonna have different materials, so we're just gonna select the pieces that are gonna have the same material. Okay, these are gonna have a white plastic material, so we're gonna call this plastic material, and this is gonna have the same color as the text, so we're just gonna reuse the material from the text. Don't forget to select all of it, text material, and this one is gonna have some type of a brass material, so let's rename this charger material. We don't want smoothing on either of those, and this here is gonna have, probably it's gonna have some type of a chrome material, and let's keep it simple and assign the same material as the text. So text material. Okay, now that we're done assigning materials, let's go on to the render tab, and this is a default. This is not the default setting because we set it to render in the earlier videos, just to take a look at the quality. And there are a few default settings that I want you to change. First of all, we're gonna have the gamma output. Well, if it's not already set to 2.2, the default is 1. I want you to set the gamma output to 2.2. That way we're gonna work in the linear workflow. Okay, now that we're done setting that, let's first start by applying some basic materials to our object, and later we're gonna tweak them. So let's start in order. The charger. Well, the charger, we can use the preset for metal, brass, and let's just select matte brass. As you can see, there are a bunch of materials made. Okay, and let's take a look and see how this looks. Well, I'd say it looks quite good. It's not going to be that much visible, so we don't need to worry about it too much. Okay, the global illumination is off, and let's just, for testing purposes, let's just set the indirect rays to 128. This way we can see test renders more clearly. We're just going to use radiance caching in the final render. This one is going to be a brute force render, so that way we can see the details. We could go for a brute force render for the final image, but we don't have too many details in this image that we need to focus on, so we're just going to go for irradiance caching. As you can see, the brass material, it does the job fairly good. It's basic, and we don't need any more than that. Okay, as for the body material, is going to have slight reflections on it. So let's start by adding an environment material provided by Luxology with the Modo 4.1 package, the continent package. And let's just choose Studio because we're going to do a studio render. And let's use the 3-point beige environment, which obviously makes our image fairly light, but we're going to tweak this a bit. First of all, let's set the intensity of the environment to 0.8. You can play with the values to whatever suits you. Let's delete the directional light because we won't need it. And then turn down the ambient intensity to 0. And tick off the visible to camera option in the environment. Now this way we can only see the object that's being rendered. Now as you can see, we have a pretty low quality, but this is just draft. It's for testing purposes. And let's start by adding, well actually let's enable irradiance caching just because it's faster, and we just test things. Also, you might want to change the anti-aliasing filter to Catmull or Mitchell. Let's leave the samples as they are for the time being. Now let's get on with the basic body material. Now, since we're going to use a plastic material, Luxology has already been kind enough to provide us with some basic plastic materials, and we're just going to use a medium gloss plastic, and let's just go for this green medium plastic material for the moment. Let's make sure we delete the other material. Okay, now the text material is going to be a low gloss plastic, and we're just going to leave it like that. We're not going to even bother changing it because we won't need to change it. It looks good as it does right now. Now for the screen and the menu, we're going to have to do some texturing, some UVs and some texture painting, and we're kind of done with the basic materials for the moment. Now let's go to the UV tab, and let's UV the menu wheel for before we assign any texture to it. Let's just go with the basic planar mapping. So just click the UV projection tool, set the projection type to planar, and just click once. And you might need to adjust the axis of the UV to make sure it fits. I mean, to make sure it gets UV'd correctly. Okay, now let's relax this a bit just to keep the shape, and now fit UVs. Okay, now that this is fit, we're going to need to export it so we can later import it into an image manipulation program so we can paint the texture for it. To export it, you just go to Texture, Export UVs to EPS, and let's go to my documents where the tutorial is. Go to Textures, and let's just name this UV template and save. Fortunately, for the screen, we won't need to. Okay, so now we're in Photoshop, and let's just open our EPS. Leave the settings as they are. You can't see too much right now, but I'm sorry. Let's copy this and make a new image. And since the wheel is a rather small image, we're just going to use 512 by 512. Close the EPS, and now let's just paste this over. Now, now we need to scale this just like that. But this may change the way our texture maps, because you can see this is not it's not right near the edge as is in Photoshop. So let's just close it and let's open the EPS again. This time we're just gonna add a new layer, rename the layer to background, and we're gonna fill it with black, and this is gonna have the mode to screen. Go over to blending options and add a stroke. Make sure that the size is set to 1 pixels and the opacity is set to 60%. This way we can see it better. Now let's merge those two layers and rename this UV. Okay. Now, for the sake of the video, I don't want to go through all the steps that I did to achieve the image, but I'm just gonna show you how to start. So this is what I got. It's fairly simple to do. First of all, I used Modo for it, and I'm just gonna show you. If you have brushes that match the buttons of our menu wheel, you can just use the brushes. But I did this differently, and this is how I did it. And Modo did it again. Fortunately, fortunately, I saved the scene before, so I'll be right back. Okay, so let's start where we left off. I'm sorry about that. Modo didn't like me and he crashed. It crashed. Okay, so let's create a new mesh, hide the base model, and now I'm gonna show you how I did this button mask, how I did the buttons. Well, if you don't have brushes for it, I'm gonna show you a quick way to do it, and that is create a default cube, delete, just keep only one face, then select the verticals, and we go to vertex join average, and there we go, we have the play button. And now for the stop button, as you can see here, for the pause button, sorry, we're just gonna do the same thing. Only difference is that we're gonna do a box for it. Okay, and you just render this. You just render this with an alpha channel, with an alpha output. You save the alpha, and then you get a selection for the button. And for the menu text, I just use the Modo text tool to make a text and render it with the alpha on. That's about it, and you can do it yourself. It's very, very simple, and you're gonna end up with this, and save it as a JPEG. Okay, now that we're done with this, I'm gonna show you the screen that I got. I just got this by googling Ipod Nano first generation, and eventually you're gonna get some images with the screen visible, and I just cropped it to the screen size. There's nothing complicated about this. There's no post work on this whatsoever. And now let's get back to Modo. Okay, now that we're back to Modo, let's start with our body material, and as I said, we're going to use a default plastic with medium gloss to begin with. Okay, and now let's before we do this, let's start by making a studio for our model. Well, the studio is simple. We're just gonna create a default box, flip the oh boy. Okay, Modo is grumpy this morning, and we're gonna have to open it again. It usually doesn't crash like that, but okie dokie. Now that we're back on track, let's create a new mesh item for our studio. And let's just scale this, make it rather big. Okay, and we might want to move our base model on the ground plane. we created. I just hope it's not okay. Now that this is on our ground plane, let's start and add some light cards. And let's start by adding a type of a light card for the top, like a roof, a diffuse. Now you may notice that our iPod is rather big, so we're just gonna scale it down. Right about there. Okay, now let's delete. Let's keep only one face of this light card. Now let's save often because you never know when Modo does it again. And we want this to be rather large. Okay, that's about right. Now let's copy this and move it over. I'm just trying to mimic some type of studio lighting. And now let's set the action center to origin and mirror this over. And of course, let's have a bit of difference between our light cards and place them and scale them differently. Okay. Now let's zoom our camera to our iPod. And we're not going to decide on an angle just yet. Okay. Let's not forget to add a material for our floor. And we're going to add different materials for the lights. So this one is going to be top diffuse. This one is going to be left light, and this one is going to be right light. Okay, now I'm sorry. Now let's the top diffuse, we wanted to cast shadows, and we also want it to be visible to camera, but we don't want any specularity or any diffuse on it. We just want to emit some light. And as for the environment, we're gonna need to choose something more darker than what we have. And let's try this studio room. Okay, and let's switch the intensity to 0.7. And if you render right now, you're not gonna get a very good image, but we are gonna fix this. First of all, let's set the floor material to 100% diffuse and the light to about 30 black. Okay. And now the left and right diffuse, we need to move those above the base shader and add a shader for them, because we don't need them to cast shadows or receive shadows or be visible to camera. And let's just copy this shader over to the right light. And now let's change the diffuse amount to 0 on this one, on both. And for a star, let's set the luminous intensity to 2. And let's copy this over to the other light. And right now, let's play a bit with the lights. But before we can do that, we need some type of reflective material on our iPod, just so we can see how the reflections fit and everything else. Don't forget to save. And now let's add medium gloss black plastic. As you can see, we're not getting too many reflections on it, but we're gonna fix that. And let's start with the right light, and let's bump up the intensity to about 5. There we go. You can see it right now, right here. And let's change the color to something not cold, but not hot either. Let's change it to a light blue, or maybe like that. And let's just bump up the intensity up to 7. Okay. And for the left light, let's just bump up the intensity to 5 and a yellow color. And as for the right light, let's choose a more darker color. And let's give this a fast render. See how this looks. Okay. I'd say it looks acceptable. Not that great. But that's why testing is allowed. Okay, and now let's play a bit with our body material. Maybe let's zoom in with our camera so we can see the reflections better. And right now we wanna change the color to something you would find on an iPod. And I think that green is for iPod. Specular amount, well, we do want the Fresnel to 30%, and maybe the specular amount to 5. And now we forgot to add this to the selection. So body material. Maybe the Fresnel on the reflection needs to be 35%, and the reflection amount to 10. And maybe a bit of clear coat. And let's see what result we get. Well, the result is somewhat acceptable, although we lack reflections for the moment. But we can fix that by adding the floor material above the shader and add an individual shader for it. And we want this to be to not be visible to reflections. This way we're gonna get more reflections on our iPod, although this kinda depends a bit on the camera.